Anthony Scaramucci, who is familiar to some viewers of our network because he appears on CNBC as a hedge fund manager.
And I also went to law school with you with Brian Mathis.
It's great to see you.
Back in the day.
You've done very well. Congratulations. That's great.
And if I fouled you on the hoop court, it wasn't intentional.
I remember that.
You would remember if I fouled you. I got a low center of gravity. The question I have, sir, and this is something I really, a lot of my friends are thinking about. Listen, I represent the Wall Street community. Right. We have felt like a piñata. Maybe you don't feel like you're whacking us with a stick, but we certainly feel like we've been whacked with a stick. So I certainly think that Main Street and Wall Street are connected. And if we're going to heal the society and make the economy better, how are we going to work towards that, healing Wall Street and Main Street? Question number one. And then question number two has to do with job growth. I was doing a calculation. I run Skybridge Capital. It's got $7.4 billion under management. And I'm thinking about hiring new people. A $50,000 worker in New York City, if I want to pay the full freight on the health care, right, plus the FICA and all the other stuff, it's about $90,000, sir. That woman, man or woman, is going to take home about $35,000. It seems very, very disconnected, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we don't have a lot of job growth. So, two questions. When are we going to stop wagging at the Wall Street piñata? And how are we going to fix that arbitrage so that we can create jobs in our society?
Right. Well, on the first issue.
And I promise not to foul you if we play hoops again.
On the first question, I think it'd be useful to go back and look at the speeches that I've made, including a speech, by the way, I made back in 2007 on Wall Street, before Lehman's had gone under, in which I warned about a potential crisis if we didn't start reforming practices on Wall Street. At the time, I said exactly what you said, which is Wall Street and Main Street are connected. We need a vibrant, vital financial sector that is investing in businesses, investing in jobs, investing in our people, providing consumers loans so they can buy products. All that's very important, and we want that to thrive. But we've got to do so in a responsible way. Now, I have been amused over the last couple of years, this sense of somehow me beating up on Wall Street. I think most folks on Main Street feel like they got beat up on. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, there's probably a big chunk of the country. Hold on a second. There's a big chunk of the country that thinks that I have been too soft on Wall Street. That's probably the majority, not the minority. Now, what I've tried to do is just try to be practical. I'm sure that at any given point over the last 2 years, there have been times where I have been frustrated, and I'll give you some examples. I mean, when I hear folks who say that somehow we're being too tough on Wall Street, but after a huge crisis, the top 25 hedge fund managers took home $1 billion in income that year. $1 billion. That's the average for the top 25.
And yet Forbes magazine puts on their cover a story saying he has an anti-colonial attitude, or Steve Schwarzman, a big figure on Wall Street, says their approach to the financial regulation and taxation is like Hitler invading Poland. Where does that come from?
I mean, I don't know where that comes from. That's my point. I guess it is a two-way street. If you're making $1 billion a year, after a very bad financial crisis where 8 million people lost their jobs and small businesses can't get loans, then I think that you shouldn't be feeling put upon. The question should be, how can we work with you to continue to grow the economy? A big source of frustration, this quote that you just said, this was me acting like Hitler going into Poland, had to do with a proposal to change a rule called carried interest, which basically allows hedge fund managers to get taxed at 15% on their income. Now, everybody else is getting taxed at, a lot more. The secretary of the hedge fund is probably being taxed at 25, 28, right? And these folks are getting taxed at 15. Now, there are complicated economic arguments as to why this isn't really income, this is more like capital gains and so forth, which is a fair argument to have. I have no problem having that argument with hedge fund managers, many of whom I know and went to school with, and I respect their business acumen. But the notion that somehow me saying maybe you should be taxed more like your secretary, when you're pulling home $1 billion or $100 million a year, I don't think is me being extremist or being anti-business.